consistency, isolation, and durability property, right? So in database, we have discussed about this ACID properties. So in transaction management, we'll be applying this ACID properties. So atomicity property, right? So it is important that either all the actions of a transactions should be executed completely, or in some case of failure, like hardware failure, software failure, network failure, or power failure, partial effects of each incomplete transaction should be undone. So this property is called atomicity, right? So you are familiar with the atomicity property in the first class itself. A transaction should occur completely or not at all, right? If due to some failure, like hardware failure, software failure, or power failure, or network failure, a transaction is not successful, whatever the partial effects that are carried out by a transaction should be undone. So this property is called as atomicity, right? So in atomicity property, generally a transaction is delimited by statements like begin transaction and end transaction. So the transaction consists of all operations carried out between the begin and end transaction. So this collection of steps must appear to the user as a single indivisible unit, right? So a transaction is indivisible. It means that it executes completely or not at all, right? So let us see an example for transaction. Visualize. You can visualize first a transaction, right? So this is an example for a transaction. You are going to debit account A and you are going to credit account B. So TI is a transaction that transfers $50 from account A to account B. So the transaction can be defined as TI. So you are going to read an account A. You are going to debit $50. Write off A. You are going to write the updated value onto the account A, right? Then you are going to read the account B. You are going to credit $50 onto account B, right? You are going to update the account B. Write off B is used to account D. Write off B is used to update the value of the account B, right? So this is what a transaction looks like, right? So except the last statement, all the other statements are terminated by a semicolon, and the last statement is terminated by a full stop, right? So in today's class, first we'll study how we are going to apply this properties to a transaction, ACID properties to a transaction. So a transaction is delimited by statements, so like begin transaction and end transaction. So we'll have some delimiters at the beginning of a transaction and at the end of the transaction. So it consists of all operations executed between the begin and end transaction, right? So all the operations has to be executed within the begin and end statement. So this collection must appear to the user as a single indivisible unit, right? So a transaction is indivisible. It is executed, it's either entirely or not at all. If a transaction begins to execute but fails for whatsoever reason, any changes to the database that a transaction made must be undone, right? So this, I think,